Hello. So my name is Tish. Um, for a very long time I have felt the need to, like I'm being pushed to share my story because I truly believe that there's somebody out there that could really benefit from hearing my story. Maybe it could help them, maybe overcome things that they've been through, or um, whatever. I am not a professional. I'm extremely nervous. I have shared my story many times in writing. I'm a much better writer than a speaker. um, I'm extremely nervous, as you could probably tell. My son actually will be editing the videos for me. I wanted to do the raw and uncut, but knowing how nervous I am, chances are you'll benefit from the videos being edited. That way you don't have to go through long pauses or just quirky stuff. But anyway, so I created or changed my YouTube, changed the name to My Name is Tish, because obviously that's my name. And just to let you know, I have 9 cats, so chances are we're going to be interrupted lots of times because they like to make themselves a part of everything. Willow, come on. Anyway, so right now I'm actually trying to seal a piece of wood to put on top of my rabbit cage so that my cats will stop torturing my rabbit. Not really torturing my rabbit, but they like to jump on top of his cage, and it's got bars on the top, and I want to make sure that he stays well ventilated, so I'm just trying to make sure that I can keep him ventilated and keep them off the bars. So I'm going to do an elevated piece of wood on the top of his cage. Not that you care or even need to know that, but anyway, that's what I'm working on right here, and I thought that maybe that would help me relax a little bit when I'm trying to talk with you. So anyway, I'm going to start from the beginning, because that's where everybody starts, right? In the beginning. So I was born 50 years ago. I turned 50 earlier this year. I was born to my parents, obviously. They were 17 and 21 at the time. My parents never should have been parents, or maybe at least not been parents at that time, and definitely not together. So I grew up in a very abusive home, not just towards us, but my dad was very abusive. He's been that way towards pretty much everybody that's ever been in his life. Before the abuse even started with me or my siblings, I seen him abusing my mother. I would watch him beat the hell out of my mom. Of course, now for me to even say that, and my mom hears that I said that, then she would be extremely upset because I'm telling her story, but I'm not telling her story. Okay, that's part of my story because this is what I've seen. And at that time I was 6 years old, so you're going from a 6-year-old perspective of watching your dad beat the shit out of your mother. So it's pretty traumatic, because this is your mom, and you're watching her be hurt. You're hearing her cries. You know she's in pain. You're completely helpless. You can't do anything. So that was extremely traumatic. And I grew up watching that. It wasn't, the first time wasn't when I was 6 years old. you know, the whole time I grew up watching that. My dad actually broke my arm when I was, I think, 3. I'm not sure exactly how old I was. I believe it happened in Germany, which would have made me 3, or about that. Of course, I was really little, so I don't have specific memories of that. My very first memory, and I remember this very vividly, and I can't tell you what exactly was going on, but my very first memories, I remember hiding under like a roll top desk. I don't know that it was a roll top desk. I just remember being under something like that. And I remember being very, very scared. And my dad was after me. And the belt was swinging in, hitting me. That is my very first memory. I don't know that there's any before that because, of course, it's kind of hard to put it in chronological order. When you're that young, you just can't do that. And I don't care what the professionals say. We're talking real life here. We're not talking textbook. So that's the first thing that comes to mind. And then, anyway, and I watched that go on between my parents. And there were times when, a lot of the abuse while my parents were together was directed towards my mother. A lot of it didn't happen towards us. There were things that happened, but it wasn't, the sexual abuse and stuff didn't start until later. There was physical abuse. I don't specifically remember incidents. I just remember seeing things. And that was hard enough. So let's fast forward a little bit because, can't talk about my mom anyway. So my parents separated. They got a divorce. And it was probably 6 months after the divorce. We were staying at my grandparents' house, and I kept running away. I don't know why, but I never really got along with my mom. I'm not sure why. There was a lot of tension there. I just never really fit in. I always felt like I was like the black sheep. And I don't know why. Later, as I got older, I kind of started to figure things out, I guess. I don't know. But anyway, so about 6 months or so after they divorced, or after they separated, I'm not sure, I ended up deciding to go and live with my dad. But before that happened, my dad and his girlfriend actually came to my grandparents' house, and my dad assaulted both of my grandparents. He hurt him pretty bad. We were not at the house, thankfully. My mom was able to get us and take us to a friend of hers' house, so we were not around when that happened. There was a permanent footprint from my dad on the back door at my grandparents' house. And so that was a constant reminder of what he did to them. And that was just, it was awful for him to hurt my grandparents. I think the only reason why I decided to go and live with him, and at 7 years old, why I was allowed to, or 6.5 years old, why I was allowed to make that decision, I don't know. They knew that he was a violent man, they knew that he was abusive, but for whatever reason I was allowed to make that decision, and so I went and lived with my dad. So he was still living, we were living in California. Everything was real great at the beginning because, I was the only one that chose dad, so therefore I was great. Nobody else chose dad. But anyway, I think that the reason why I chose him though is because I felt like, I don't know, I felt like I fit in, I guess. Because I didn't really feel like I fit in with everybody else. And I don't know why I felt that way. I mean, I was really young, but things were different. Or maybe I felt like not fit in, but accepted. So anyway, so the one memory that really stands out in California is I remember going over to a friend's house and she wasn't there. And I remember being locked into her house by her dad. And I was running from front door to the back door to the front door to the back door trying to get out of this house. And I was really, really scared. And I finally got out of the house and I went and told my dad what happened. And that's all I remember. I don't know what happened. I don't know why that happened. I'm not sure exactly what was going on. I don't know if my dad ever did anything about it. I don't know. I don't know where that memory comes from. I don't know what exactly was going on in that situation. I don't know. I just know that I was extremely scared. I was really little. My friend wasn't there. So, at some point we moved from California to West Virginia. My dad had, his mother was there. So we went to West Virginia. And this is where things got bad. This is where things got bad for me. The physical abuse started pretty much immediately. Because his girlfriend had a son. And I'm not sure exactly when the sexual abuse started. But I know that it was going on because her son was also abusing me. And so I couldn't tell anybody because who was I going to tell? I mean, her son's doing it to me, my dad's doing it to me. I can't tell my mom because my dad listens in on the conversations. My dad very early on made sure that everybody knew that I was a liar, or made me out to be a liar, so that if I ever did tell, nobody would believe me. I was probably 7. It's really hard for me to pinpoint exactly when everything started because I was so young, and it's, you know, your memory is not, when these things are happening to you, you're not sitting down making notes. Okay, I was 6.5 when this started, and I was 7 when this started, and I was 8 when this happened, and you're not doing that. You know, you're trying to figure out ways to survive, trying to figure out why this is happening, or what did I do wrong, or what can I do right, or, you know, how can I make him happy? You know, why does he hate me? You know, that's what's going through your head. It's not, you know, why do people not like me? It's, I don't even know how to explain it. It's, I don't know. If you're going through it, then you know. If you're not going through it, or if you haven't been through it, you know, you can have all the opinions you want, but you don't know. And I don't wish it on you at all. If you haven't been through it, thank God. And I'm glad that you haven't. So anyway, the one vivid memory that I have of it happening is I'm not sure where his girlfriend was. I'm not sure why we were alone. I was sitting on the edge of the bed and I woke up. I woke up on the edge of his bed. How I got there, I don't know, because I went to sleep in my bed. But when I woke up, I was crying. I was sitting on the edge of my dad's bed. He had his hands on me. I obviously did not have breasts because I was, again, 6.5, maybe 7 years old. And he was sucking on my breast, on my chest, which there was nothing there. Okay. And he had his hands on me, and it hurt. And I was crying, and he was like, well, if you don't like it, you can go back to bed. So I went back to bed, and he was really mad at me. And I remember that. And I went back to bed. And I know for the next couple of days, he stayed mad at me. And I couldn't figure out what was going on. And I want to say that that was probably the first time that anything happened. Just because, I mean, that's the first thing that really stands out in my mind. With the girlfriend's son, I'm not sure exactly how that started. He had a friend that used to come over. And at first, it was just torture. It was like, one thing that he made me do was eat a tablespoon of salt in 2 bites. And if I could do it, he would give me back my allowance, the allowance that I earned doing chores. So, of course, I tried because I wanted my money back. So I took a big bite of the salt and immediately started throwing up. For anybody hearing this, please don't start some stupid ass challenge about can you eat a tablespoon of salt in two bites, like these stupid cinnamon challenges and shit, because it's just dumb. I mean, I don't even know what to say about that shit. I mean, I'm just blown away by the stuff that's happening today. Okay, this was back in the early, what was it? Late 70s, beginning of the 80s. So anyway, obviously I didn't do it, and I didn't get my allowance back because I started throwing up and wasn't able to do it. Him and his friend would call me a mutt, because, you know, that was my name. My name was Mutt. I did not have a name. As far as him and his friend were concerned, they would walk around with the head of their penis sticking out of their shorts. Just, I don't know why. Okay, that would make me extremely uncomfortable. It would embarrass me. I didn't understand why they were doing it. This is how I know that things were already going on with my dad, because I knew that it was wrong. I knew that them doing that meant something. So I knew that things were already going on with my dad. But this is why it's so hard to put things in chronological order back at that time. My dad used to do flea markets and things, and I used to go with him. Sometimes I would be by myself, sometimes they would be with us. A lot of times we would go the night before to set up, and then we'd spend the night in the van. And anytime that happened, and it was just the two of us, then he would I don't even know why I'm getting emotional. Because I have told my story so many times, but I've never told it. It's always been in writing. People, whenever it's within a family, it's incest, or they say it's molestation, or it's rape. Okay, it may not be violent, and maybe I wasn't getting the shit beat out of me, but I had something taken away from me, and I went through it for 7 years. 6.5, 7 years. I mean, what difference does 6 months make? And it happened over and over and over. I can't even tell you how many times it happened, because I don't know. And I am 50 years old now, and I have been away from him for 37 years. The statute of limitations on a rape is 7 years. But 37 years later, I still remember. And I don't remember the physical pain, but I remember the mental pain. I remember the psychological pain. And it never goes away. And it affects you your entire life. The things you do, the way you do them, your decisions that you make, it affects all of it. It changes you. So anyway, so while this stuff was going on with my dad, and there were so many times that people had to have known and nobody ever said anything. There's so many times that somebody could have stepped in, could have intervened, could have made it stop, but nobody ever said anything. And the reason why he was doing it was because he loved me. That's what I was told. Or he would ask me things like, oh, we ended up getting an apartment. And we still, I mean, that's all he's ever done is flea markets. I mean, I guess when I was really little, he used to have a job and he was in the service. But, from the time where I could actually really start recording memories in my brain, like, actually, well, I can't really say it like that because obviously I've been recording memories or I wouldn't remember this shit, and that would be really nice. But I don't remember him ever actually holding a job. He says that he did, like he worked at Circle K or something, but I don't remember that. I do remember him in the Air Force because I remember going to the base when I was really little. One story that he used to like to tell is that he used to like to tickle me. And so one day, I guess my mom took me to the base to see him on his lunch or something, I don't know. And he was tickling me. And I told him I had to use the bathroom, I guess, and he didn't believe me. So guess what? I pissed on him. Look, right there in his damn uniform, in front of all his buddies, I pissed on him. So, but anyway, so we went from having a house, and I was in, we were at that house for quite a while. Maybe that apartment came first. That apartment that apartment had to have come first. So, the apartment was first. But I remember, my room in this apartment was a closet. It was a walk-in closet. That's what I had. I had a twin bed in there and a lamp. And there must have been something, I don't know if the lamp was sit on the floor, or maybe there was a little something in there for that lamp to sit on. But anyway, by this point I was already afraid of the dark. But I wasn't allowed to keep my lamp on because at a certain time I had to turn my lamp off. And so the lamp didn't have a shade. And so I thought, well, I'll just put the lamp under my pillow. So I'm sure you guys can see where this is going. So I didn't know. I had stuck the lamp under my pillow. Thankfully, my pillow didn't catch on fire, but you could see that the light bulb burnt my pillow. So of course I couldn't do that anymore. But it was at this apartment. The first time my dad made me perform oral sex on him. Well, I didn't know what it was. But we were out working, and he had to go to the apartment for something. I don't remember the pretense or whatever, but he said he needed me to go with him to help him. So I went with him. I mean, it's about daylight, you know. So anyway, I went to the apartment, and I was still down in the car. And by the time I got upstairs to our apartment and went in the door, my dad was completely naked, standing in the living room. Or naked from the waist down, I guess. I think he still had his shirt on. And he said, "Come here, I want to show you something. I want to teach you something." And so he made me touch him. And showed me how to touch him. And at this point, maybe he wasn't actually, so maybe the van trips hadn't started yet. I knew the accidental touches and stuff had started, and because he had groomed me for a very long time. You know, we're playing with somebody and then you accidentally touch them, or that went on for a long time. But anyway, so he had me come over. He was showing me how to touch him, and then he told me to put it in my mouth. He was telling me what to do. And then he was asking me if I liked it. And what was I going to say? See, if I say no, then I'm going to get my ass beat. Because the physical abuse was already happening. It was in full swing, and I was scared to death of my dad. And it was funny because whenever I did something where I just knew I was going to get my ass beat, I wouldn't get my ass beat, I'd get rewarded. So you talk about confused. But then whenever I didn't do anything wrong, then I would get my ass beat. So anyway, I just kind of mumbled saying that I liked it. I've never been so grossed out, humiliated, scared. I don't even know what to attach to that. I don't know what words to attach to that. I really thought he needed my help with something. I felt, you know, special that he wanted my help instead of his girlfriend's son's help. That wasn't what he wanted at all. He just wanted to hurt me. So then afterwards, after it was all over and he was dressed and we were leaving, headed back to the flea market where we were set up, he would tell me how much my mother liked that and was comparing me to my mom. And that was one thing that my dad put a lot of energy into, was making sure that the relationship between my mother and I was as damaged as possible, on her end towards me and on my end towards her, because he wanted to make sure that if anything was ever said, she wouldn't believe me and I wouldn't trust her enough to tell her anything. And it wasn't just her. I mean, he would tell anybody who would listen how much of a liar I was. But the one thing I always did is I always told the truth first. And I would get my ass tore up for telling the damn truth. But as soon as I told a lie, he would stop beating me. There was one time, this was over library books. There were some overdue library books, and I had put them up, and for the life of me could not remember where we put these books. And then it dawned on me, they were in a box in the closet. And so, when nobody was looking, and I had to sneak to check because I was on the top, or I was in the bottom bunk, I don't remember, I think I was on the bottom bunk. But anyway, so I went and I checked, well, the first time I checked the box, all I felt, because it was encyclopedias, I like to check out the A encyclopedia, because my heart has always been in Arizona. I mean, it's like it's in my DNA. This is where I was born. So the top of an encyclopedia, if you fill it, which I know kids nowadays don't know what an encyclopedia is, but it's this book that has all kinds of information. It's kind of like a dictionary, only the letter A only has things that start with the letter A. But anyway, and I'm not being a smartass, I'm just saying encyclopedias aren't used today like they were when I was a kid. We didn't have Google. But anyway, I guess maybe I am being a little bit of a smartass, but anyway, I'm just kidding with you. So I had put my hand in the box and I felt around, and because I was feeling the top of that encyclopedia, it didn't feel like a book, so I did not realize that it was a book. So the first time I checked the box, I didn't feel the books. So I got beat because I told him that the books were in the box. Or maybe it was him that checked the box the first time. And anyway, he had felt the encyclopedia, but whatever. Anyway, so, and I believe that is what happened. He had put his hand in the box and that's what he felt. So when I got up the nerve to actually check the box, the books were in the box, but this was days later, and I had been getting my ass beat for those days. That is what happened. He put his hand in the box first, because I wasn't allowed to check the box. Anyway, boy. See, this is why I write, because then I can think about things before I actually put it down, so I can remember things properly. Get out of there! Make this. Anyway, so I tried to figure out any place that we might have put those books. I could have swore they were in that box. And so when I finally did get to check, that's exactly where they were, in that box. So when I found the books and told him that they were in the box, then I got my ass tore up because I was lying. But I wasn't the only one that knew that that's where those books were. When I found those books, I didn't find them by myself. So the books got turned in. But this was, I believe that was the incident where I had flipped out at school. And I had a teacher at this school. Maybe I should just stop trying to put things in chronological order and just tell you about things I remember, the stories that I remember. Not stories, I mean, it's the truth. Just tell you about things that happened. Because it hurts and it's very hard. Anyway, I was at school one day. And this was while the beatings were going on, and I don't know if it was library books or if it's another incident. It happened a lot, so I don't know. And I thought I heard my dad's van outside the school, and I was so scared, and this was in the middle of the classroom. And so I lost it. Like, I started crying, I was shaking, I was terrified that my dad had come to the school to get me, to beat me again. And you know what happened? Other than my teacher comforting me and going to the window and making sure that it was not my dad, absolutely nothing happened. Nothing happened. Again. There was one time where I ran away. My dad actually had a building space that he rented downtown on the main street. And so he was still doing flea markets and stuff sometimes, but he had this store. And so he would sell stuff like in the store, and that way he didn't have to do flea markets all the time or set up on the side of the road or whatever. But I had run away. And it was another one of those things where, you know, I was getting beat and I didn't want to go home because I knew I was going to get beat again, and so I ran away. Didn't have anywhere to go. My dad actually called me in as a runaway. But I had actually got, one of my friends had actually talked me into calling the cops and telling them that my dad was beating me and I was scared to go home. So I did. So the cops came and got me. What I didn't know is my dad had called me in as a runaway and gave them some kind of crazy story. I'm not even sure what he told them. So the cops came, picked me up, took me to my dad's store, handcuffed me to a chair in my dad's store with a pair of handcuffs that he sold, and left me there. deal. That happened. That happened. This thing is going to be a mess to sand. I'm using the Mod Podge because it is non-toxic. If my animals are chewing on it, I don't want them to be hurt by it. And I am not a professional by any means. I just like doing the woodwork because it's calming. And gives me something to do with my hands, I guess. So after that, I knew that I could not trust the cops because they were just going to take me back to him. My dad was a hell of a liar. He could convince anybody of anything. He could sell ice to Eskimos, as he liked to say, and they would believe him. Most abusers can. Most abusers are very believable, and they put a lot of time and energy and effort into making their victims out to be liars. I know my dad did. And the bad part is it wasn't just everybody else that he was convincing. He was convincing me too. He was convincing me that I was a bad person, that I wasn't worth anything, that I was completely useless. Nobody cared about me. But he was wrong. And it took me a very, very long time to find that out, to figure that out. But he was wrong. I think that's enough for today. I need a break. I don't know if anybody will even watch this. But if you do, and if you've been through this, I hope my story can help you. Thank you. God bless.